how you check in and out and all that sort of thing. And so the story didn't really start until chapter 3. But chapter 1 and 2, you got all this good stuff that you really needed to know. And so when I took my group and talked about it, that you know, the book really gets going in chapter 3. They said, get rid of 1 and 2. So we started the book. Chapter 1, it was what was chapter 3. And I found out we didn't need all that stuff. The reader didn't need all that stuff. I needed to know it. I needed to write it, but it didn't need to go in the book in the first 2 chapters. So sometimes your first 2 chapters might be you're writing what you need to know, but your reader doesn't need to know it, and it doesn't advance your story.
We do know the way to validate yourself.
And you also, if you did your character letter, you might not need to have it show up in the book.
Next question.
And that applies to nonfiction too. You get what we call researchitis. You go on and on, because there were many times when I was writing my book, I would go into all this esoteric stuff and this and the mythology and all of that, which was interesting to me to know, and it was interesting for other people to hear, but it wasn't the focus of the book. So you have to keep your focus of your story or your nonfiction book or your article or whatever you're reading. Any more questions?
Sure, I got a lot more questions.
Questions?
Come on, give us
I've got a question for you, and I know I'm taking up a lot of space.
That's okay, we want everybody to talk.
Okay, I know, I've read your book. I love reading about the dark side of Zodiac. It's just, you know, it's kind of interesting because you're right. When people read it about themselves, I was reading one to a Libra friend of mine, and it was spot on. She was the total dark side Zodiac. Nothing against Libras.
Did she cry or try to commit suicide?
Nothing against Libras. I'm
We
just
call it
saying.
sore paw.
Yeah. Anyway, she was like, "This is not me. I am not that manipulative." And we're just sort of like, where do you get all this information? Obviously, a lot of it comes from life.
It's astrologically correct, but it's just the dark side, and it comes from 25 years of reading astrology books and studying astrology and you know,
She is
doing
brilliant.
friends' charts.
And she is intuitive.
And then it's also because I have a little, you know, I like to skew people, and it was a nice way to do it and make money, you know, without pissing off all my friends so they would hate me forever. But it is the dark side of them, only it's just...
But it's done in a loving way.
It's done in a loving way, and you know, I had to write my own chapter 10 times. I really did. I wrote it 10 times, and finally it came out really nasty. And it was like, you know, this is really nasty. And when I was writing it, though, I was making myself laugh because, like, well, I guess I could be that way too, you know. But yes.
What do you see as how recognizable do you see as the differences between the cusps? Like, I'm an only child, and both me and both of my parents are all Sagittarius. And me and my father are very alike, and then my mother is on the Sag Cap cusp. And there is a extremely noticeable difference between you.
The cusp is part of that, because wherever you are, and the cusp, now, cusp is one of these things that gets misconstrued and misunderstood a lot, because a true cusper is only like 36 hours, one way or the other, from when the signs change. And so if you're 2 or 3 days on each side, you're that person. But what modifies every sun sign is your astrology chart. There's like 3 big
I've actually done the birth
placements.
chart.
One is the moon, one is your sun sign like is Sagittarius, then your moon sign, and then your rising sign. And so, you know, maybe she has more water in her chart, or maybe she has more earth in her chart, or maybe she has more air, you and your dad, you know, or maybe you have more fire.
Yeah, I'm a Sag Virgo.
And okay, your earth. What is her, do you know their?
She is Sag Cap with Sun, and I believe she is a Capricorn also with her moon.
Well, then she's got a lot of Capricorn influence, so she may have even more earth in her chart than fire. See, I have more water in my chart than I do, more air in my chart than I do water. Even though I'm a Pisces sun, I function a lot of times more like an air sign. And when I get into like the water sign funk, I don't usually stay in it too long because of that. You know, I can kick myself out of it a little bit. So it's your whole chart. It's, sun signs are what I write, and it's a very general, broad astrology based on that, because it's easy. People who aren't really astrology students will read it and get a kick out of it and learn something. But when you actually want to know about why, you know, your Sagittarius mom is different than you and your dad, you have to really study the whole chart. So she may have more Earth, you know, she may have Venus and Mars in an Earth sign, or
How accurate do you
something
tend to
like
find
that.
the birth charts, the complete birth charts? Because I actually do that as well.
I'm sorry.
How accurate do you tend to find the birth charts, the complete
Birth charts are right on. They're exactly a picture, they're a snapshot of the moment that you were born.
Because I've let people read mine and they look almost amazed at how accurate it is.
And it's very accurate. And now, and there's another thing that you can do is transits. You know, when your chart moves as you grow older and get older in your lifetime, your chart transit will change, and that will change your behavior too. But your snapshot of your chart is at the moment that you were born, and they're startlingly accurate. They really are.
I found it really interesting when I did a birth chart on two very good friends of mine that have the exact same birth date, same year, same date, but were born on different sides of the country.
And at different times,
Yes,
and they're different people.
very much
It
so.
tweaks them. They'll probably have something in them that is similar, but you know, your chart is like your fingerprint. It's no two are alike, even twins, because they're born at different times, whether they're 5 minutes apart or two, you know,